Hello, welcome to today's edition of Hope and Help for Families. My name is Pastor Matthew J. Watts. I'm here with my co-host, Ms. Christy Day. And we want to thank you for tuning in to today's broadcast. And we think we have an interesting topic to many of our viewers, particularly those who are mothers and young mothers. Christy, welcome again to the studio.
Thank you very much. We do have a lot to talk about this time around. Last month when we sat down here, we were talking about a fatherhood initiative. The companion piece to that at Hope is the Motherhood Initiative. So how are you getting that off the ground?
Well, we're really excited about this. It's something that's been in the development stages for a couple of years. We do a lot of work with youth that are classified as being high risk and at risk. We've had teen mothers and young mothers in some of our various programs. And we thought that it would be good to really codify into an actual program, an initiative to work with young mothers. And so a young lady by the name of Crystal Satterfield is taking the lead role in actually implementing this initiative. And it's scheduled for implementation on Mother's Day and next month in May.
That's interesting because what are the statistics in terms of teen pregnancy? I know Hope does a lot of gathering of statistics. What is it that you're finding? Are the rates up? Are the rates down? What's happening?
Well, I think what we're finding is probably teen pregnancy rates are up. That's a difficult number to really get your hand on because some young mothers are choosing not, to deliver, and so some pregnancies are terminated. But we are seeing an increase in teen pregnancies among certain groups of our society, and Kanawha County is a county where there is a pretty high teen pregnancy rate.
So when you get to, of course, we know, how this happens, but why are young girls making that kind of decision? I mean, is it that they don't understand their body cycles and they don't understand that there are certain times of the month where you can become pregnant, or is it much more than that?
I think it's a very complicated thing, but very, very simple. Well, we know how people get pregnant, but I think a lot of young girls today, they're not always getting the proper guidance, or maybe enough guidance that they should receive. And there's been some change in mores in our society in terms of whether or not sexual activity before marriage is acceptable or not. There's no longer a position that the society holds that's consistent. And so there are mixed signals that's been sent to young people. I think many young people today have more free time, unsupervised time, and therefore they're much more likely to get involved in premarital sexual activity. And when you combine that with the fact that they are bombarded like maybe no other generation in history in terms of with the movies, with the printed page, with a lot of their music, with sexual messages at a time in their life when their sexual drives are probably at their peak, and then they're being over-aroused, I like to say, by some of the stimuli in the society. So it's a combination of factors, and we've just got to sit down with our young people and talk to them openly and honestly. This is serious business, and the quality of their lives are being affected, as well as the quality of the lives of children that they're bringing into the world that they didn't plan for.
There are 2 points that I want to talk about in relationship to that. But over the weekend, I had the television on and wasn't really paying attention to it, but one of the reality shows was on, and I was shocking. I mean, it was shocking to me to find that there were several people in this household that were living together as this reality TV project or whatever. But anyway, the girls and the guys were in and out of bed with people. I mean, this was only an hour show. There were about 4 or 5 sexual encounters. And I was thinking, what's going on here? And what was also interesting is how they viewed that. One girl thought that as long as the guy called her the next day, then she was okay with it. But if he didn't call her the next day, then she had problems. So it just seems how all that information is even digested, and was pretty amazing to me.
And that's the day and age in which we live. And some of us, those of us who are adults and hopefully have developed a level of maturity, I mean, we can look through some of this and realize that this is not a good situation. This is not good for these young people emotionally, psychologically, and possibly even physically. But young people who are very impressionable and who have not had the advantage of experience and maturity don't really understand that. And so I think that these type of things does have a tremendous influence on our young people and their view of sexuality. And so it behooves us as the adults in the society to really try to talk to young people about the fact that sex is more than just a biological function, that it should be based on a committed relationship to an individual, an expression of love, and in our context, that of a lifelong commitment to a person where that love and affection is expressed. That's a message that you don't hear coming from our society, from the media, and from those who control movie industries and music and that type of thing. Let's face it, sex in our society sells, and sex sells to young people. And it's very profitable for those who are in that market.
What's also interesting, and getting your viewpoints on this now, you, as a minister, of course, you advocate abstinence, but for those who are involved in this activity, are there not contraceptives available? Can they still not go through the health department and get free birth control pills or condoms? Is that not an option?
Well, it's most definitely is an option. As you stated, we believe that the option that we should be at least talking to young people about and getting them to consider is abstinence until marriage. And I know there are some who will say that's unrealistic. It may be unrealistic for some young people, but it's at least an option, an alternative that we should lay out to them so they understand that they're not abnormal if they choose to do that. It's a perfectly legitimate position to hold. But young people need to understand the other things that are available to them, and those things are shared and made available through, I guess, clinics and through nurses and those type of things. But the bottom line is that young people are having sexual encounters, and young females are getting pregnant, and many of them are choosing to keep their baby. So what do we do, and how can we help them?
And that's what we're talking about today, the Motherhood Initiative that is developed through the Hope Community Development Corporation. Basically, what are you teaching mothers? How to be mothers? You're in that situation, so here's how to make the best of your life at this point?
Yes, the goal here is to really try to identify these young mothers while they're pregnant through referrals from the schools, through referrals from their peers, and since we work with so many young people, then we have a network of young people out there that can help us identify these young mothers. We want to make sure that they're getting the proper prenatal care because all the statistics show that with proper prenatal care, you lessen the probability of a low birth weight baby or health or other birth defects. So we will make sure that she's getting that proper care that she needs. And then also to try to provide her with a female mentor that can provide her with the emotional support and encouragement that she needs. You've been a mother yourself. You know what a woman goes through. I don't. What a woman goes through mentally and emotionally when she's pregnant, when her body is changing and that type of thing. And I'm sure that it's probably exasperated when the mother's a teen herself and just a girl. And so to provide her with support during that period of time, and also to provide her mother, the future grandmother, with encouragement and support. Because very often these are young mothers themselves and they have other children, and this is an added burden and responsibility upon them. So try to provide as much support as we can to the teen mother and to her mother to help them during that time of pregnancy and to make sure this teen mother is getting the proper health and so forth. And also that she is staying on target with her education. She stay in school as long as she possibly can to complete as much as she can of that particular school year so she doesn't fall behind academically.
And those are very good points because a lot of times what happens is I think that young girls get in this situation and before they know it, they're so far over their heads and they just feel like there's no support, there's no help. And even what's happening in our schools with the daycare that's being provided, you know, even that's come under fire. So I imagine your approach to this is probably going to draw some fire also.
I'm sure that it will. I think anytime you take an aggressive, visionary approach to say we want to try to solve a problem, and sometimes we can't just eliminate it. Our problems aren't easily eliminated. But young females that are pregnant, they need a lot of support. We can debate as to whether or not it should have happened or not. We can debate how moral and immoral they might be. But the fact is, they're now pregnant, preparing to bring a new human being into this society. And what can we do to help this young mother to stabilize her life, to stay on target academically, to get the proper health care that she needs, and to help her prepare as much as we possibly can to be a mother. That's really the bottom line, and hopefully in time, as we work also with the young fathers and with the young men, we will see a reduction in out-of-wedlock pregnancies, particularly among teens. But until that time, we've got to try to stabilize the situations, and we don't do a lot to help if we just ignore it and try to wish it away, because it's not going away by itself.
What makes you think that this will not have just the reverse effect, that that young men and women will say, well, hope is there to help me when I get in this situation, so I can therefore perhaps participate in those kinds of activities because there's yet another support network out there for me?
That's an excellent question, and I think because, number one, we're there to remind them of their responsibility, and we're not condoning what they've done, and we're not celebrating them as being heroes. We're telling them the hard facts. You've made what we believe to be unwise choices. You've now complicated your life, and you've made your life much more difficult than what it should have been as a teenager. And we want to try to help you. But we also want to try to help you to understand that this type of behavior, if you continue to do this, you're going to further complicate your life and disqualify yourself for certain opportunities that will be available to you. We're not here to condemn you or make you feel any worse than what you feel, but we really do want you to understand the scope and the magnitude of bringing a life into the world and now being responsible for providing for, supporting, and nurturing that young life. And then we also want to talk to them about their whole value system regarding their sexuality, and to challenge them to consider, abstinence as a lifestyle choice until they would get married. If not, to make sure they take the necessary precautions to not have another unplanned pregnancy or pregnancy out of wedlock. We're trying to help young people think it through, because very often few people have ever told them that by having an out of wedlock pregnancy, then you increase the probability that you're going to be in poverty and your child's going to be raised in poverty, and it's going to be difficult for you to break that cycle, that you've increased the probability that you will not complete your education and that you will not be able to fulfill the dream that you maybe had for employment. And so we're really trying to help them to see the social, the personal, the financial, all these ramifications that they probably haven't thought through. While we have them in the system and through these relationships, we can talk to them about things that maybe they have not had to discuss with them before.
The role of the mentor in these situations, of course, people who, I guess mothers
Yes.
would probably make up the biggest part of that. Or what do you think that they're going to be able to give and take from that relationship?
Well, I think it's a wonderful opportunity, for mothers who are raising and others who have successfully raised their children to be able to invest in the life of a young mother. The rich tradition of our communities, particularly in the tradition that you and I are from, the African American community, historically we've taken great pride, in our motherhood skills and instincts, and the mothers raising the children in slavery, and mothers who work domestically in people's homes to help raise the children. And it's a great skill that we have. I think over time we have gotten a breach between young mothers and older mothers, and I think the way our society evolved with the welfare system and with subsidized housing, and now you get people separated through their living arrangements to where they don't come in contact with the people in the community with the skills, and that can encourage them and help to train them. So what we hope to accomplish is to create a venue again where these young mothers can come into contact with these mature, seasoned, positive women that can be positive role models for them and to challenge them to be good mothers, and also to challenge them to continue their education, because they really need to do that.
Well, one quick question. Now, am I considered the older mother? Is that me?
You are considered a mature mother.
There you go. Mix it up there. Thank you very much. And I think that this is very valuable. I would like to see mothers, not young mothers, those who don't have children, who may be involved in this activity also. I want them to come and spend a weekend with me and my two beautiful children up at 2 o'clock in the morning when you still have to be at school, you know, at 7 a.m. I mean, I just want them to come when you can't go out and hang out at the mall because you've got obligations. I want them to come and spend some time at my house.
Exactly.
I think that it would have to make an impression, I would think.
Well, I think so, and I think that's an excellent project that we would like to take you up on. I think some of these young girls really sin. I mean, really how hard it is and how difficult it is. It's a 24/7 proposition. And in your case, you have a very supportive husband to help you.
Yes, I do.
And but still, it's no easy task with Max and Quincy. I mean,
That's
it's
right.
still a very difficult job, and for them to realize that every waking moment of the day, there's someone else that's dependent upon me to take care of and provide for them. That's an awesome and a daunting responsibility that many young people have not given serious consideration to.
Now, explain to me what the mentoring would include. Are we just talking about, of course, the prenatal aspect of things? Are you talking about helping them to understand how much this will cost them? I mean, what exactly will the mentoring include?
Well, really all of the above. During the prenatal period, to really encouraging them, make sure they're taking their vitamins, make sure they're eating properly, encouraging them to abstain from alcohol and tobacco, talking to them about the fact that their baby is totally dependent upon them, and they got to take care of themselves so their baby can develop properly. And as we mentioned earlier about the change in their body and all these type of things. And then after the baby, while they're still carrying the baby, about how to bond with the child, about how to stimulate the child in its infancy, because research is telling us now that children can be intellectually stimulated even while they're in their mother's womb, the type of music the mother listens to, the mother singing to the child, and those type of things. And just really encouraging them to do those type of things. And then after the child is born, to continue to encourage them that, you know, this is a noble calling, and you do have a wonderful privilege to nurture your child and to help your child develop to be the type of person you would have them to become. And just provide them with the words of wisdom that only a woman or a mother could provide, a perspective and insight. And just be there to encourage them as much as they can. To continue, you know, to fight the good fight and not get discouraged because the baby will not be a baby forever, you know, and they're going to develop and mature, and it gets easier, it gets harder in different ways. But just there to provide them with support and encouragement.
Now, would it be an ideal situation if you had a mother who was in the Motherhood Initiative and a father who was in the Fatherhood Initiative, both receiving this kind of nurturing? Ideal not in the sense that they're both in the situation, but that they're taking advantage of this opportunity.
That is what we hope to be able to do, at least in some cases. Even while the mother-to-be is pregnant, to try to be working with the young man to help him understand what his role and responsibility is and what he needs to be preparing himself for. Not only to try to be gainfully employed to make some financial support to the mother and to the child, but also, you know, what it means to be a father and how he can bond with the child and that type of thing. And with these teen mothers and teen fathers, you know, the relationships are sometimes so volatile. I mean, before the baby is born, they're already broken up and not speaking to each other, you know. And trying to work with them to help them to understand that it's really important that they develop a relationship that is civil, and they've got to develop a way that they're going to relate to each other for the benefit of their child. And so hopefully we will be able to do some of that, to work with them and continue to work with them and help them to develop a way of communicating and relating to each other, realize that now they have something that will tie them to each other, if not directly, but indirectly, probably for the rest of their natural lives.
Well, this is a very interesting topic. I think this would be a good time for us to take a break and come back and talk some more about the Motherhood Initiative at the Hope Community Development Corporation.
We'll do that. We'll be back in just a few moments. This is Pastor Matthew J. Watts along with Ms. Christy Day, and we'll continue our discussion on the Hope Motherhood Initiative.
Someone once said, we all come into this world alone, and we leave the same way. But in between, we have the chance to connect and help each other, to find ways you can do something to connect with the people in your community called the Points of Light Foundation. Do something good. Feel something real.
Welcome back to Hope and Helpful Families. I'm Pastor Matthew J. Watts along with Christy Day. And if you just tuned in, we're talking about the Hope Motherhood Initiative, a new project of the Hope Community Development Corporation.
One good thing that, or another thing that we did not mention is the specifics of the program. One thing that's really interesting is creative journaling, and I keep a journal also just as a mother, and I think it's fascinating to look back even 6 months or even 4 years ago when Maxwell was born, just to see all the changes that have gone on. How do you think that's going to help the young mothers?
We hope and we believe it's going to be very helpful to them, because many of them probably have not really chronicled and documented some of their feelings and the way they think about certain things. And so we're hoping that as they do that, they're going through a time of uncertainty, as pregnancy is, and that type of thing. Then they look back and they see their own maturity and their own growth, and they see how their attitudes are changing, and hopefully they're becoming more positive and optimistic.
What if I am considering or am interested in getting involved, what as a mentor would be required of me?
Well, as a mentor, we would have you to contact Mrs. Crystal Satterfield, and she would schedule an interview with you. She would sit down and explain to you what we're trying to accomplish in terms of providing support for these young mothers to help them continue their education, prepare them for the workforce. She would want to know what type of time commitment that you're willing to make. We're hoping for at least an hour and 15 minutes per week, where you'd meet with your mentee, and you and she would talk and discuss various issues and topics and so forth. And then participation in some other group activities. I think they want to try to have a quarterly meeting where they bring all the mothers together and they do something together jointly. And so that would be basically it. We at Hope Community Development, we'd say people, give us an hour a week of your time, we'll give you something significant to do in the life of a young person. And this is another opportunity to do that.
And so some of the other services that Hope provides as part of this youth movement would be able to address some of the needs that the young mother has also. So what would some of those be?
That's exactly right. You know, we've tried to build a comprehensive, holistic, integrated system. And so we can provide tutoring and mentoring, career education, post-secondary education planning. We can help a young person get into Job Corps if they qualify, or into some other job training program. We can connect them with the workforce investment system in Kanawha County. And we're always looking for other services and service providers that could benefit youth. And so we actually keep, you know, a document that has a list of all these service providers in the community we've identified and what services they provide. That way we can sort of customize a plan for the young person. So what we try to do is to find out what's the need of the young person. And then if we don't provide the service, is there someone within our network of partners that provides the service, or can we find it somewhere else in the greater Kanawha Valley?
What are the requirements of the young women who would be interested in being involved?
Basically, we're targeting this initiative for young women 13 to 23, and we hope we don't have many 13-year-olds, but unfortunately we have come across some, and that they are either currently pregnant or they're already a parent, and they're willing to make a commitment, you know, to the program, and they're looking for assistance so they can continue their education, to obtain a GED or their high school diploma. They're willing to commit that they want to go on with some other type of post-secondary education in terms of job training, college, Job Corps, etc. Because you and I know that there are few jobs in our economy today that a person can make a livable wage just with a high school diploma, and they got to be willing to make that type of commitment. And while they're in school, we're asking them to make a good effort, you know, to really attend school and take their school seriously. And we hope they'll make at least a C average. Of course, we hope they will do much better than that. And then keep the appointments. We're saying this is like a business appointment. And if you have a meeting with your mentor, we expect for you to make that appointment, be there, be on time, and be prepared. If not, show them the courtesy of calling and let them know as you would do as a professional. And so we're saying to them, we're here to help you, but we do have expectations that you're going to put forth effort and that you really want to take advantage of this wonderful opportunity.
Well, it's definitely no secret that by focusing on the future and the promise that your future holds will hopefully make you make better decisions in the present.
Yeah, that's correct. It doesn't have to be over, is what I say to young people. because you've made a mistake. In this case, a young mother getting pregnant out of wedlock and choosing what I believe to be the noble thing, to carry the child and to deliver the child. It doesn't have to be over. Your dreams don't have to be shattered. If you had dreams of going to college, you can still go. If you had dreams of becoming a doctor, you can still become one. It's going to take more effort. You're going to have to work harder at it. But if you really have the dream to really continue education and to be gainfully employed, to take care of yourself and your child, it can happen for you. And there are people out there that want to help you to do that. And so that's the message that we want to send, not that we're condoning out-of-wedlock pregnancies, but the reality of it is that there are many young women giving birth out of wedlock. And if we're going to break that cycle, then we have to work with those young women so that they can work with their children. And hopefully we break the cycle in the next generation if it wasn't broken in this generation. But we just can't discard these young mothers and say, well, they're second-class citizens. We can't afford to do that from a society standpoint because we need the skills and we need their ability. We can't do it from a moral standpoint in terms of these are young people who need our help, and we got to help them.
Do you think that the young women will in turn be able to work with other young girls who are at critical points in their life and deter bad decision making?
Excellent, excellent point. And that's one of the things we hope to get out of this. We don't think that that message is really being sent loudly enough and forcibly enough by the ones who could have the most influence, and that's these young mothers that are teen mothers. What happens when a young girl gives birth? It's kind of a catch-22. You know, how can you not be excited when a new life has come into the world? And how can you not show attention to this mother? And how can you not show attention to this baby? That's the natural thing that healthy people do. And so what ends up happening, some young girls who've not had much attention before, now they're getting all this attention. And then other young girls see the attention that they're getting because they now had a baby. And maybe not consciously, but subconsciously, you say, well, that's the way I can get attention and be treated special. And we want these young girls to help us, to help other young girls to realize that's not really the way you go about doing it. You can get attention by going to school and achieving academically. You can get attention by developing your skills in music or dance or in sports. You can feel good about yourself by doing something that is much more positive than having a child out of wedlock. That's the message we think we need to help our young people understand.
And again, when are you hoping to kick this off?
Well, we're excited about it. Mrs. Crystal Satterfield has an aggressive schedule. We hope to roll this thing out on Mother's Day with either a breakfast at the Grace Bible Church, and we invite these teen mothers to come to participate in that and then hear about the details of the program.
And we'll be having follow-up right here.
We'll be having follow-up with Mrs. Crystal Satterfield.
Excellent.
We want to thank you again for tuning in to Hope and Helpful Families. This is Pastor Matthew J. Watts and Miss Christy Day Shavers, I'm sorry. And we certainly appreciate you tuning in. We look forward to seeing you next time. Have a great day.